Hi, my name is Adam Dubois. I have been a member of MCC since late 1972, and I've worked for the fellowship in various capacities since 1975. I've been director of the Washington Field Office, the first person hired to lobby Congress for gay rights in the United States. I was director of the Department of Christian Social Action for 11 years. I was co-director with Nancy Wilson of the Department of Ecumenical Relations. I wrote the first and only, so far, application to the National Council of Churches of Christ in the USA. I was district coordinator of the Mid-Atlantic District for over 9 years. And I am the founder and director of Cairo Press, LGBTQ Christian publishing house. So I am kind of an MCC dinosaur, and I come to this process with a perspective of both history and looking forward into our future. I am retiring and dropping a lot of things that I used to be doing with the fellowship and the district or the region or whatever we are now, focusing a little bit more on the local church. But just taking more and more time for myself. That gives me a chance to go to conferences like the PAD conference, which I totally and absolutely support, and for some thinking and discussions with other dinosaurs and other church leaders and especially laity about the future of MCC. I think we've, in some ways, lost our way. Excuse me. In that we used to talk in the 70s, sorry, about MCC being on the cutting edge of theology, cutting edge of activism, cutting edge of thought in the LGBTQ community. I think we've lost that. And I think one of the reasons we've lost that is that we have become too cautious, too corporate, too interested in MCC being an institution rather than MCC being a movement, and too caught up in both covering our butts and being acceptable to the broader community. I don't think we need to be acceptable to anybody but God and ourselves. And I don't think that MCC needs to cover our butts. We're going to be 50 years old in less than a year, a little bit more than a year. And we need to get out of our adolescence and become adults, an adult institution, an adult movement. We need to start naming our theology. We let the whole marriage debate go by in the United States without really discussing our theology of marriage. What is our theology of marriage? Are we theologizing about monogamy? Are we theologizing about more open relationships? Are we theologizing about polyamory? These are important questions that the church, I think, can inform the rest of the LGBTQ community and the society at large in the United States and around the world. We aren't theologizing very much about what it means to be lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, genderqueer, any of the other categories in which we place ourselves. And I think we need to do some more theologizing about what it means to be LGBTQ. I think we also need to be conscious of being on the cutting edge of education. I think it's wonderful that seminaries welcome MCC people. We have 4 seminaries represented here at the PAD conference in St. Louis in 2017. But why don't we have our own seminary? We've tried. Samaritan is, maybe a familiar name to some of you old timers, but we really haven't made an effort to have and fund an accredited theological education institution that is MCC, that we can draw people from other churches to get decent educations. We have a lot of theologians in MCC. Why aren't MCC publishing houses publishing them? We have a lot of people who are active in social justice ministries, but it's all happening for the most part on the local level. Why aren't we coordinating that and making a stronger stand institutionally, as a social justice church? In Eastern Europe, Diane Fisher tells us that MCC is known as the Justice Church, the Human Rights Church, not the Church of Gay People. Why aren't we known that way in the United States? In fact, why are we diminished and minimized for our role there? MCC hired the very first person to lobby Congress for gay rights in 1975. That was me. I talked about the Washington office to our moderator, Rochelle Brown, this morning. She had never heard about the Washington office. This is the head of the church, and she had never heard of that part of our history. We need to tell folks our history. We need to celebrate our history. We need to let the broader community know about the amazing cutting-edge things that MCC has done, and we need to do them again. We need to go back and we need to find that cutting edge, both in LGBTQ movement, in theology, and in society, and assert our leadership in those things. We have the skills, we have the people, we have the resources. We're just not optimizing our use of them. And that, I think, is all I have to say for a while. Don't yell at me too badly. God bless you, and God bless MCC.
Hi, my name is Reverend Adrienne Mobley Bowie, and you've already met my partner, my significant other. And as a person of African descent here in MCC, I first came to MCC in, believe it or not, 1996. There was a person, we were a part of a sisters group, and in that group, someone shared that we should go and hear this pastor. And that pastor was Reverend Carolyn Mobley. And I went to MCC Resurrection, and lo and behold, I felt a connection. I thought to myself, if this person who is short in stature can be expressive enough to be out and proud, then I can do it too. So that was my introduction to MCC. And as I became a part of Metropolitan Community Churches, I did notice that there was a disparity. And that was that even though MCC claimed to be an inclusive body, I saw the disparity when it came to the type of worship that was expected. I was raised as Baptist. I also became Methodist, as well as non-denominational. And the disparity that I experienced in the worship experience, as well as in leadership, as well as how people were represented through the arts, mainly photography and video, and even the books that we were suggested to read. I did not see myself. And I remember going to, at that point in time, a district gathering and questioning myself. Do I want to be a part of a group like this? And the one thing that stood out in my mind was that when Troy Perry went through his experience, and he was called by the Creator to be that person that would boldly step out and suggest to the religious community that GLBT, same gender loving, queer questioning, SOGI people should be a part of that religious experience and should be at the table. I thought to myself, I can do this. And so I've been a part of MCC all of these years. And I've seen just a little bit of growth. But I'm hoping for more. I'm hoping for more because what comes to mind is that Troy Perry, Elder Troy Perry, Founder Troy Perry, Elder Nancy Wilson, Moderator Nancy Wilson, they were very much a part of building the temple. Reminds me of Solomon. But upon building the temple, the inclusivity piece of it was somewhat left behind. Yes, the same gender-loving community, bisexual community, transgender community, and all others were included. But we are the ones that should carry this torch further. Not only should we build the temple, we now should occupy the temple with all of those people that fall into being different. Now that the GLBT and questioning queer intersect community is more accepted, it is our job, because that's who we are, because that's who the Creator called us to be, to include those who would still be considered the marginalized. So when other churches have approached me, other denominations have approached me to be a part of their denominations, I have simply said to them, I joined MCC because I believed in Troy Perry's vision and what the Creator called him to do. Therefore, I must do the same. He was the only one that was bold enough to step out there and challenge the religious community. And because of him, no matter how anyone wants to slice it, there's others that have grown up that are bold enough to have GLBT people. And I'm going to introduce you to another word, SOGI. The young people are calling themselves SOGIs. It stands for sexual orientation, gender, identity, expression. That includes all of us. Because we are that group of people, then I think that we have a charge to keep. And the charge that we have to keep is a Savior to glorify and a present age to serve. And what we have to commit to is to do the work that's necessary. As a person of African descent, I appeal to those that have the courage and the commitment to answer that call. As a person of African descent, I am hopeful because I believe that MCC will make their mark on the world even greater than what they have already done. God bless all of you. I love you. Keep the faith.
I'm Candy Holmes from St. Petersburg, Florida, and my church is King of Peace, MCC. As a person of African descent within MCC, my reflection is that I found MCC at a time that I didn't know I was loved. I found MCC and MCC found me, and literally it saved my life. As a person of African descent, as a person who is a lesbian, as a person who is deeply spiritual, I thought that there was really no hope for me reconciling my spirituality and my sexuality. But I learned by being a part of MCC that all of that is a gift from God. My sexuality is a gift. My spirituality is a gift. Who I am is a gift from God. So I'm so very grateful for MCC as a person of African descent that I can be all of who I am, not just a lesbian, not just someone spiritual, but also I can claim my ethnicity, my race, and all that that means. It doesn't mean that it's necessarily always easy to do that, but I had to do my first work. And that was to accept myself and to know that I was loved. And now that I know that, now that I believe that in the pit of my heart, in the middle of my heart, in the deep parts of my soul, now I am a part of MCC as an advocate for people of African descent. Now, what does that mean? My hope and vision for MCC is that we will be inclusive of all people, not just LGBTQ, but people of all ethnic backgrounds, people of all racial backgrounds, people of all cultural backgrounds, no matter where they come from, where they live, that they will be accepted, included, and be a part of the family of MCC, because that's what MCC is truly about. And that's what I want for the future. That is my vision. That is the hope that I have and that I hold out for what can possibly be the brightest and best of all things for MCC. That we will learn, continue to unlearn the things that keep us separate, and to learn the things that will bring us together, and that we will truly be grounded in love for one another, love with God, and love for the community that is still seeking for God, still trying to figure it out. And many of us were trying to figure it out before, and we have a story to tell. So we're going to tell that story inside of MCC and then reach outside of MCC to those who still don't know that God is there for them. Now, I'm not thinking that that's going to be necessarily always an easy road inside of the MCC that's been historically white, and all that that means in terms of whiteness, in terms of systemic racism. But I'm here holding a vision and hope that we as MCC will do like we've done in the past around HIV and AIDS, around speaking out to the atrocities around human rights, that we will rise to the occasion to say no to racism, that we will rise to the occasion to say no to exclusion, that we will rise to the occasion to say no to misogyny, all of that, that we as MCC will come together and address the ills that are within so that we can reach out with whole hearts, with full hearts to the world outside, and we will be that example of Christ. And so that's my hope and that's my vision for MCC.
Amazing. Hello, my name is Reverend Carolyn Mobley Bowie. For 15 years, I served as the associate pastor at Resurrection MCC in Houston, Texas, when I was Carolyn J. Mobley. But I met the love of my life while serving that congregation in Houston, and we had a wonderful Holy Union in 1998 there in the sanctuary with 300 of our closest friends. And both of our mothers were there, and we loved that. But we were blessed to be legally married in Virginia just a year and a half ago. So Carolyn Mobley Bowie, MCC clergy, native of Sanford, Florida, a little town in Central Florida. Grew up Baptist, loving God and my family, and grew up in the days of segregation. Never went to a white school or a school with white people or people of European descent until I was in college. And I decided to go to Hardin-Simmons University in Abilene, Texas, which was a predominantly white school, because my younger sister and my baby brother had been forced into segregation. I had not been. My graduating class from Crooms Academy, Crooms High School in Sanford, was the last all-black high school ever in that county. The very next year, that my high school was a middle school, and all the kids, black and white, who were in 6th and 7th grades were there, and I had graduated. So I thought, they had to do it. The world is changing. I will choose to do it. So I went to Hardin-Simmons, and I graduated after 4 years. Had a wonderful experience. I was not mistreated. I was disliked by a lot of people. They didn't dare show it because I was one of 2 girls of African descent on the whole campus. And so I had to play ball with the big kids. And it was a good experience. I learned a lot. I got to travel some for the first time. I figured I had never left the state of Florida since my birth, and this was my chance to get away, so I went everywhere I could, including the World's Fair in Japan, my sophomore year, that summer. Singing with a little trio I had gotten together with, 3 girls, the Sojourners, and we sang in Osaka, Japan for the World's Fair. That was amazing. Little kid from Florida. Graduated and moved back home for a hot minute. While serving on the staff of a black church, I read about Metropolitan Community Church in a not very good light in a newspaper. It was like USA Today or something about this gay church. And I thought, oh my God, in California, I pray I get to go there sometime. I'd love to know what that's about. I want to go. Within 2 years, I was in seminary at a black school in Atlanta, Georgia, and there was one white man in my class who was the assistant pastor at the newly started MCC in Atlanta, Georgia. And I thought, God, you have a sense of humor. I'm thinking I got to go to California. I'm moving to Atlanta, and this white guy who's gay, who's at MCC, is in my class. We became fast friends, graduated together. Our second year, we moved into a duplex, him and his lover and me and mine. So, and I started attending MCC. I didn't join for another several years, but I got to know MCC as an outsider looking in and fell in love with the vision, actually, of a world where people can come together and not fret about color. And I thought that being gay and lesbian, bisexual wasn't even in it at that time, or transgender, but just the just the gay and the lesbian people coming together and not caring about race, because already I saw, biracial couples. I thought, this church is the thing that God has put in the world to change the world. I want to be a part of it. And so I joined MCC. As an intentional layperson, even though I graduated seminary, I didn't feel called to be a pastor. I didn't want to be a pastor. And it took some more years and work for God to turn that around. So by the time I had worked in a secular job after graduating from seminary, well, first of all, I have to tell you, I was hired by the Southern Baptist Convention when I graduated from seminary as a full-time career home missionary. This is a predominantly white, if you know, Baptist group, and I'm serving in a predominantly black city. but in a black neighborhood at a mission center, and I loved it. But I was closeted as a lesbian. And 5 years after working there, they decided this person is not showing like anything like a heterosexual. We need to ask her and get rid of her. And so I was brought in and questioned about whether I'm a lesbian or not, and I refused to answer the question directly. I did decide going in I would not lie, so I never said, no, I'm not a lesbian. But I did say, I think you have a problem with people who are different, period, whether it's a woman, gay, straight, whatever. And so I skirted that issue, but I decided it's time to go. And so I offered my resignation and joined MCC in the same year, 1981. Joined MCC and then moved forward with that new sense of community. But I had been attending since my friend from MCC came in with me at ITC, Interdenominational Theological Center. Fast forward, the church, MCC, needed more pastors than anything else, and so I kind of reluctantly became clergy. In 1990, the pastor who had started the church in Atlanta, he left there and went to Fort Lauderdale and then ended up in Houston. I got kicked out, basically, or asked to resign as a Southern Baptist home missionary, and so I joined MCC in 81 and worked a secular job for almost 10 years, thinking I don't need the church, they don't want me, I don't want them. So 10 years later, John Gill called and said, I want you to come to Houston, Texas and be my assistant pastor. I said, I'm not ordained and I don't want to be. He said, well, we'll talk about that, just come. So I came as an intentional layperson, and they helped me through my boot camp, and I got ordained in 18 months, and the rest is history. Served there for 15 years, and then felt called to move home to Florida to be with my family for a while. My mother died in 2005, and so I was ready to go ahead and leave. I did the interim pastoral training and became interim pastor now it's been two different churches completed. One in Oklahoma, one in Virginia, and possibly now my next assignment will be in Michigan, where I live with my partner. After her mother died, left her the house, we now have a home in Saginaw, Michigan. So I live there with my partner, the Reverend Adrian Mobley Bowie. And we do, in our spare time, a ministry of inspiration, which we want to make our full-time retirement thing, a gig, to share praise and prose, as God blessed me with more voice to sing, her with greater poetry to share. We will travel and do that, but for the next few years, at least one that I'm committed to, maybe 2 or 3, I'll be an intentional interim pastor for MCC where needed. At my ordination inquiry, I call it, I had an epiphany that I really, during that conversation, decided I couldn't be just for one church. I wanted to serve MCC in Atlanta because I had come in there and I longed to be on that staff. It has never happened. But I decided, okay, wherever God needs me, wherever you lead, I'll go. We sang that growing up in the Baptist church, and it became my mantra. And so I have served in Houston, Texas, in Tulsa, Oklahoma, briefly in Tampa, Florida, then another 2 years in Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. Living now in Saginaw, Michigan. I hope to retire from there, but I can commute to near Detroit, where my membership is right now, MCC Detroit, but the church that I will serve will be out from there, maybe Waterford, Michigan. So I thank God for bringing me into the MCC at the time that God did. In my college years, I had a sense of call to the mission field, and I felt it would be home missions, that is, missions within the U.S. And if you're unfamiliar with what missions is, it's really about being in a different culture and serving comfortably. My culture is African American. I grew up in the black church. That's all I knew for years and years and years. And then I got acquainted with Southern Baptist churches, which prepared me in a way for MCC because it was predominantly of European descent. And so I see my call within MCC as my serving in home missions. Really kind of home missions and foreign missions put together, because there are people from all over the world in all of our churches, many of our churches, and I get to serve them. A culture different from mine, but bringing all that I am to that, including my blackness, my gayness, my womanness, and feeling that there's a place for all of it within MCC. All of me is not welcome in any one place, but parts of me are welcome everywhere. So I'm finding niches here and there and making my life as well-rounded and whole as I can within MCC, and I'm grateful for that. I see that as the wave of the future for us, that as we grow our congregations, we'll have to understand that all of us are called to be missionaries in a way, serving our homeland and beyond, but cultures that may not be our first culture or choice of culture, being welcomed in our congregations and in our midst, so that all of our churches look like heaven. It's not going to be no one thing in heaven. It's going to be everybody. And so if we want to be comfortable in heaven, we got to get ready now by being in churches that are multiracial, multicultural, and even different languages. God will give us our heavenly language at that point in time. But I'm grateful to be in MCC, and I thank God for all of you. Peace out. God.
Hi, my name is Cecilia Hayden Smith. Everybody at my church calls me Mama C. I live in Washington, D.C., so I go to MCC, Washington, D.C. And I've been in it 30 years this August. I've been there 30 years in this August, and I love it, but I didn't come in loving it. Because I was kind of really mad at churches, and but I feel like after all these years, I feel like when God get ready for you to do what you're supposed to do, you don't have a choice, because somebody comes along and they ask you to come, or do you know about it, or something like that. And I guess he knew it was my time to try to be ready to do what I needed to do to finish taking care of myself. It is all, well, when I first started in DC, the church had a lot of mostly white men. It was a lot better from what I could understand than my partner, who has been there for 45 years, I think. And she said when she come, it was only one black person other than herself. And I think it was her and 2 or 3 more women, period. That was all. And she had said that she asked the Lord, what in the world am I doing here? And but she said it came back that she was supposed to help it to change. And I feel like that since I am a very outspoken person, that I have contributed some, but you know, sometimes people get angry because they think that, you know, Cecilia always speaks her mind, and if something don't suit her, she's gonna run her mouth or whatever, because, and then they get angry. You know, everybody that smiles in your face at church is not your friend. And the other piece of that is that sometimes things hurt in church. I don't think that doesn't happen any place you go, but you know, our church say we're inclusive. Everything the other churches aren't, which a lot of it is true, but the race thing is everywhere all the time, period. I mean, you can't walk across the floor or hall to the next neighbor that you don't have to talk about some kind of thing with race going on. And I always like to say, people say, you know, racism, you sounding racist or whatever. And I always tell people, everybody in the world usually are prejudiced of something or someone. But racism is an institution that one person cannot be. And that all that we do to try to make it better, it still needs to be better, because with the hatred that's going on now in our government, head of our government, the other people that had hatred in their heart all the time feels really empowered to beat us up, to do anything they want to do to people of color, gay people. They just feel like they do. All them alphabets and stuff. I'm 73. I ain't gonna get that together today. I'm nervous. But I just feel like as a woman of color who's 73, and I just feel like that we have to keep striving to make MCC the model of what the world can be like, because I feel like that is that's something that God wants us to do. I feel like that's something God wanted Troy to do from the very beginning. And of course, it's like anything else, it has to grow. And as we grow, any institution, you have a lot of growing pains. And the growing pains really hurt sometimes. They really feel bad. They really make you want to strangle somebody, and somebody want to strangle you. It really hurts sometimes when you feel isolated or feel like, okay, I'm gonna talk. I'm the only one that get up and speak my mind, so I'm the angry black woman, you know, and all this kind of stuff. But I believe that if you don't tell somebody what it is that they did that bothered you, then they'll never know. They'll never know how to correct it. They'll never know how to do it. They'll never know how to do anything. And if I don't tell it, then inside, I become the one that's all messed up. I'm the one that's not angry. I'm not angry. I usually speak my mind. And sometimes I can do it very eloquently, and sometimes I can't. It depends on what I feel at the particular time that I'm talking. But as a whole, we used to travel a lot, and everywhere we went, we tried to go to MCCs. And I can tell you, I mean, down in North Carolina and different places that we went, we were always treated, me and my partner was always treated wonderfully. But I think when you in a church all the time, that's when you see the warts and pimples and all the things that people are not wanting to break. They want to just stay in their little clique and do what they want to do, and you want to stay in your little clique and do what you want to do. But I think as a church, if we develop the plans that we develop all the time with what our mission is and what we want to do, I think that there's no way that we won't grow. And as long as we keep having meetings like PAD that have these wonderful speakers like they have in there this weekend to do the work, I think we cannot fail. We must not fail because of the life that people live. They're so scared. They're so scared to come out and afraid of so many things. And the one other thing I want to say before I shut up, because I do talk a lot. I'm working in Washington, D.C. with a friend of mine, and her father left her some property, and she's doing Mary's House, which is a senior house for gay and lesbian people. And it's going to be like a communal house. It's going to be little suites. So even if you have a mate, it's enough room for that mate to come with you. And the reason why is because I told her, it was in her mind, but I'm an ambassador that speaks for Mary's House. And what I say is that our people, especially people of color, when they lose their mate and all the friends and stuff around them die, and somebody put them in a nursing home because they don't want to be bothered with them because Aunt so-and-so is gay or whatever, and they go back in the closet. And they don't, people don't want people to come and visit them because not only are the other people in the nursing home mean to that person, the staff gets mean, they hit them, they do terrible things to them. And I always tell this story because I want people to understand and know how important this is for the gay community, is that a very good friend of mine had his legs cut off because he was a diabetic. And so they put him in what they call a rehabilitation place or whatever, so he could learn to do whatever he needed to do. And one of the night nurses found out that he was gay, and so he raped him every night. He couldn't do anything because his legs and things was cut off, and he got threatened that if he did tell anybody, he would hurt him even more. And so he got better and came home, and then the last thing, they told him that he was going to have to go back because he needed to learn some more things. And he killed himself because he would rather die than to be in a place where he was so mistreated. So we have, as MCCers, we have to be the ones that build things, to do things, to make sure that our older generation, and even the ones that's real young now is going to be older by and by, get the care and the love that they need until they die. And I thank you for allowing me to share.
I am David Williams, Dr. DeVilles. I am the interim pastor of MCC Christ the Liberator and also MCC, the denomination's program officer for health and wellness and HIV and AIDS. My hopes for MCC is that we continue to grow as a church that openly affirms and accepts folks with HIV and AIDS and become a more healthy church along the way. Currently, we are coming back from being the church with AIDS, and we have lost our focus a bit, and my intention is to see us come back with active ministry that is cohesive across the entire denomination. And in terms of health and wellness, to look at our aging seniors and to provide some other aspects and avenues in which they can continue living as they openly and affirmed, and overall improving the overall health of MCC congregations across the board.
Hi, my name is Reverend Denise Junius. I am a member of Resurrection MCC Church in Houston, Texas, and I've been a part of MCC since 1995. This is my 6th PAD conference, and I'm so excited. I'm excited that I was there at the beginning in 1998 in Baltimore when we first met, and it was a wonderful experience of being able to come together with people from all over the world at that point. My brothers and sisters who are people of African descent, some of which looked like they were my first cousins or aunts, uncles, and mothers, spiritual mothers, grandmothers. And I just felt so at home and so connected because that was something that was missing in my life at that time. And just knowing that there were people of African descent who are like me, like-minded, care about their relationship with God, and need to hear a message of love and connection with the Spirit and with other people. That is what I found back in 1998. And what I hope for MCC today, here we are, August in 2017, is that we reclaim that family and spiritual connection, that sense of unity, that sense of celebration of who we are as individuals and celebration of who we are in our differences, because I believe that is where our strength is. And there's a huge opportunity for MCC in this day and time. We are living in a world and we're living in a nation that is deeply divided and is very unclear as to how we see ourselves out. And this, for me, is where MCC can be the face of Christ, to show this nation that we are all children of God, and that we are to love each other, that we are to honor our being who we are as people of faith, and that we can model that behavior. This is our opportunity, and it's a very important opportunity. It has a very, in my mind, short window, and I would love to see MCC become the messenger in such a way that the nation looks at us and say that is what humanity is about. They look to us for leadership. They look to us for modeling our behavior. If we look like the nation does today, then we are not the model that people will want to look toward. But if we are people who demonstrate the kind of care and love for humanity, all of humanity, not just for some humanity, then others will look to us as a model. And that's my hope for MCC. Can we do it? I believe strongly that we have what it takes to do it. Will we do it? That, I think, is the question. Do we want to do it? Do we want to be the spiritual leaders for this nation, for this body of people? I hope so. And my commitment to MCC is to help us demonstrate God's unconditional love, not only for this nation, but for the people of MCC. That we begin to love on each other, that we begin to care for one another, that we begin to lift each other up, and that we begin to honor each other, and that we begin to give people or show people hope. Because there are so many people who don't know where their next meal will come from. There are so many people who don't know where their next warm bed is going to come from, right here in this country. And many of these people are LGBTQIA youth, some of which are already homeless, some of which in some ways are hopeless. And if MCC can be the place, if MCC can be that beacon of light, that in the darkest hour, in the darkest night, that person who is looking for a glimmer of hope, if they can see MCC, then I believe we will have at that point lived into who we are capable of being. I appreciate all that the PAD conference has offered in my life. I appreciate the leadership of the PAD planners and conference planners, and the leadership of MCC in the way in which it has supported the need and the necessity for people of African descent to come together to live into the hope for humanity, their own humanity, and to be connected to each other in this way.
My name is Estella Sanders, and I'm a member of King of Peace, MCC, St. Petersburg, Florida. My pastor is Reverend Candace Schultes, and our associate pastor is Reverend Brad Rice. And I, as an African American in MCC, is finding that our culture is growing fast there. And in the future, I would like to see more young couples, young people, and children in the MCC fellowship. The African American culture is growing in our church, and it appears that it's growing in other churches. So what I want to see in the future is more.
Hi, my name is Felicia Miller. I'm from MCC Richmond, Virginia, and I would like to give my opinion on how MCC could be more inclusive for people of African descent. I think that we need to be more assertive. And what I mean by that is when we feel that we're not getting our needs met, we need to speak up instead of just sitting there and listening to the same rhetoric all the time. Also, I think that the majority, which is of Caucasian persuasion, need to listen more and hear us, not just push us off to the side. And that's pretty much it.
Hello, my name is Reverend Jenny Garcia Kitch. I'm the pastor at A Church for Me MCC in Chicago. It's my joy to be here as part of the PAD conference. I wanted to share a little bit about what it means to me to be a part of the MCC from my European heritage. I'm absolutely blessed and liberated to be part of this community, this faith tradition. I come from a different kind of European perspective, having been a minority in my home county of Prince George's County, right outside of Washington, D.C. And so I grew up being very comfortable in the African American community, in the homes. It took me to become an adult to recognize the fact that I was privileged to have that experience. I recognize that the segregation on Sunday mornings is indeed the most segregated time in our country. I happen to be partnered with a triracial woman, and also we have 4 beautiful African American children together. So I have a unique perspective. However, I recognize the fact that I am not a part of the Black community per se, but I have been enabled and allowed to be a part of it, and that has been a true blessing. And the MCC in general has just helped me to embrace another part of my life, which is the fact that I'm a lesbian, and that I grew up in a Baptist tradition that was never going to let me answer the call to ministry, was never going to teach me the message that Christ's love was truly for everyone. And that included myself, who knew inside of my spirit as a young child that I was a lesbian. So I have to tell you, there was a period of time that I was in seminary as a Lutheran in the Lutheran tradition, and I just realized that I could not feel liberated enough to celebrate God in the Lutheran tradition as an LGBT person. I didn't want to wait for a council to decide whether or not I could be ordained based on my sexuality and not on my faith. So I went shopping and found the Metropolitan Community Churches. And my very first visit, Metropolitan Community Church in Indiana, called Ileana. And I took my very first communion at an MCC church there. And that day, when someone prayed over me, was one of the most powerful and moving experiences of my life. It changed my spirit. It freed me from self-hatred and self-doubt. It allowed me to feel engaged and loved as a child. As a child of God, I had already been in seminary for 3 years, and no one ever said to me, "You're a child of God. You're gay, and you're a child of God," and celebrated that in me. And I recognized right then that God was calling me to a new ministry, a ministry where I'm not trying to change a church dynamic that doesn't want to move, but I want to help and celebrate Christ's love, Christ's true love in the world with people who need to hear it so much. So I am ever grateful for that. Troy Perry has just moved my spirit, and I'm humbled to serve under a church that he formed, because he makes no apologies for who he is as a human being. He's passed the torch to some amazing women who continue the ministry, and here we are all these years later celebrating the gift of radical inclusivity, which is just a blessing in every bit of my life. Going forward, I recognize that our church is an aging population, that we are in a time where we find that church is less important to the unchurched, that the tradition of Sunday morning church is slowly beginning to fade in our consciousness. So how to invigorate and help people find God in a world where God may be in the palm of your hand on a Facebook page, or in body art, or in something that has nothing to do with mysticism and everything to do with humanity. How do we take our focus off of humanity and move it back towards the mystery of the divine? And how do we share that in a loving and an engaging way? How do we engage our differences and our challenges and look for an outcome that is positive for all involved? These are big hopes and big dreams of mine. I do think that the MCC is not perfect. Certainly we have our struggles. We have our own bits of segregation within our own churches. We are learning and changing and evolving with the times. But I see the MCC as a way of truly embodying the ministry of Christ. And I hope that we can continue doing that. I'm hoping that what we do as an MCC church body will help heal the divide between religious tradition and sexuality, and help people find that there's no division between the two, that those two things have intersected since the time of Jesus and Mary Magdalene, and possibly the disciple Jesus loved, whoever that may have been. So I'm grateful to be a part of this program. I just want to mention one more thing, and that is that recently at my church, A Church for Me, 5 of our seniors became ill with very serious conditions. And those 5 people sit on our board of servants, on our finance committee, they're part of the lay leadership, on the stewardship committee. And what I recognize is we are, again, an aging population. What are we going to do to take care, to liaison with, to advocate for our seniors as they begin to approach needing a nursing home, or they need to approach being hospitalized? What are we going to do? That is my goal and my focus right now at A Church for Me. How do we, as the Metropolitan Community Churches, embrace people who grew up in a time when we didn't have children, when we didn't have marriage, when we didn't have those laws that protected us, though they're threatened now, but they do protect us. We do have protection. How do we help engage those people in their lives as seniors, as aging adults? And how do we utilize their wisdom to keep moving us forward in the path to more fuller inclusion and more fuller radical love for all? Thanks so much.
My name is Jerry Wrights, and I am a member of Resurrection MCC, Houston, Texas. It has been my pleasure and my honor to be in association with MCC since I first attended Resurrection in 1978. And then I became a member in 1980 and have been a member ever since. Seen a lot of changes through these years at MCC. And back in the day when I first started, we had no Afro-American, no people of color in our congregation. It was basically all European descended people. In fact, all men, very few women. But as a result, through the years, God has graced us with great people such as Carolyn Motley, who came in, Reverend Carolyn, who came into our congregation and helped introduce a lot of the Afro-American community of Houston, that they had a safe place to worship and to be accepted for who they are. And at the same time, through the years, through Dwayne Johnson and now Reverend Troy Tresh, we are now a vibrant congregation witnessing and worshiping God and trying our best to introduce people throughout not only Houston, but I really envision MCC going out throughout the world, trying to make sure that we have an opportunity to introduce people, that there's no disgrace, there's no hatred, it's all love. So from that standpoint, I praise God. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Joe Cobb. I'm the clerk for the governing board for Metropolitan Community Churches. And I'm so honored to be a part of this denomination and movement that celebrates love, that celebrates the challenges of shaping our work in love and all that that brings forth in us. I came into MCC in 2001 in a small storefront in Roanoke, Virginia, looking for a place where I could be myself. I found it there, and now I find myself in a place of leadership where I can help shape the world through Metropolitan Community Churches with the gift of love. The love that I've received, the love that's helped me heal, the love that's helped me face unimaginable challenges in my life, the love that's helped me learn new things about myself and about so many people in this world who are seeking to live authentically. I celebrate the work that we do locally and globally. I celebrate the work that we're doing, the very hard work we're doing to address racial injustice and to seek ways for racial justice, economic injustice and economic justice, helping people be able to thrive as God's beloved, and to know that God loves each of us so very much that God wants to see us grow and become the people that we are meant to be. That is why I love MCC, and that's why I want to do everything I can in my power and with all that's possible with God's help to be MCC.
I'm Dr. Lillian Dunlap. I belong to King of Peace, MCC, in St. Petersburg, Florida. And as a member of people of African descent in MCC, what I find is a wonderful place to worship. If we all know that oftentimes in traditional black churches, it's difficult to be a member of a traditional black church and also be out as a gay person. There's often a lot of intolerance around the issue of sexual orientation. So finding King of Peace was a wonderful gift to me. I must say though, when I arrived at King of Peace, what I saw was a lot of white men. And I thought, well, am I in the right place or not? But as it turns out, I was in the right place, and I've been there now for about 10 years. What I like about King of Peace and about MCC is that it's been very welcoming, somewhat flexible, and we're continuing to work on that part. What I would like to see in King of Peace and in MCCs all around the world is the thought that you can't have a complete conversation if everybody isn't at the table. The thought that it's possible to get people involved and engaged if you are interested in them individually as well as a group. So what I'm looking forward to for King of Peace in the next decade and centuries to come is a real understanding that when we embrace the complete diversity of our congregations, we not only validate the people who come to MCC, but we also educate the entire community of MCC. We all become stronger, we all become wiser, we all become not just tolerant, but knowledgeable, and we all become available and accessible to the best that MCC has to offer. That's what I hope for us.
My name is Lori Dick. I've been a participant in 3 different MCCs. Started at MCC Detroit, MCC Pomona Valley, and now I'm at Founders MCC. I've been an associate pastor there for many years. My family is lesbian, and we have 2 children who are adopted from China. So we're Chinese American. And at this point, the girls are 20 and 22. So I'm a person of European descent and raising 2 Chinese Americans. So we have a wide range of people of color influence in our lives, and we love that. I've been excited to be at this PAD conference in 2017. I've learned a lot about what it means to be white and to live out of whiteness, and what it means to be learning about centering blackness and how that would affect our church. I'm excited about the possibilities for our church at Founders MCC, and we've done a lot of cross-cultural integration and development. We need more capacity. And as a white person, I need to develop more capacity for listening, for mentoring, for developing leadership in other groups, and for training that will allow the white people in our congregation to be capable of being hospitable and sharing and being a part of a larger congregation. Our congregation right now includes people who are from the Philippines, people who are African American, people who are from many Central American, South American countries, as well as Mexican. So these are the people who are more at risk in our congregation. And right now we're reframing ourselves about how to best support each other. So I feel like this may be my next calling, to help with that conversation around race and how my capabilities of training and listening and mentoring will be useful. I'm also interested in a dream I had maybe 25 years ago, that MCC would grow to be the largest heterosexual denomination in South America. So I think there's a lot of room for developing churches that are accessible to single parents and to people who have had sexual experiences that are outside of the currently acceptable norms. There's a lot of people who've been tossed on their ear for divorce and for various different sexual infractions. And I think if we made ourselves more open, that we would have a large following that could see sexual justice, racial justice as a common theme that we could all support. And as our country and our world becomes probably less white, I think it would behoove us to take on that role of offering our support and being there for people who want to organize around the same principles that we have, and to offer that to the world.
Hi, my name is Marcia Warren, and I'm from Metropolitan Community Church of San Antonio. I've been with the denomination in my church since 1999, and I've seen MCC grow all through those years. My hope and my prayer for MCC as we move forward into this new generational area of difficulty, because that's what I believe, uncomfortableness probably is a better word, is that we learn how to bring the table closer and wider for more chairs to be set and for more people to feast upon the word that we have, that God gave us.
Hello, my name is Robert Ferguson. I go to Life Journey Church in Indianapolis, Indiana. And the question of the day is, what does it feel like to be an African American in MCC? And I think my first gut reaction to that is that it feels initially like being a trailblazer, which probably should not be the case, but I feel like we are breaking new ground. The population of African Americans within MCC is still relatively low, as from what I can see. And so it makes it necessary to have events like the People of African Descent Conference here in St. Louis. And so I would love to see a day when it wouldn't be necessary to have a conference like this. I think what happens is we come together under MCC for the ability to worship freely and to worship authentically as our gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender selves. But we aren't always able to bring our Black experiences with us. And sometimes that can be sad or rather discouraging. So it is necessary to have PAD so that we can feel at home and so that we can worship in our true cultural selves, which is always a beautiful thing. We'd like to take that back to our home churches. And how do we instill that in our congregation, the need for the African American experience? Sometimes that gets lost in translation, for lack of a better word. So I definitely am looking for a time when we can get back to being who we are authentically as a people and not having race to even be an issue. Maybe that's just a pipe dream, but I do think that we'll get there one day. Certainly we are connected by our love of the Lord and our love for the Spirit. Our shared experiences growing up in churches, those things do connect us. We have to get over the barrier that is race and somehow learn how to not just tolerate one another, but embrace one another as well. And so that is my hope for the future of MCC, that we can get to a place where we truly embrace one another. I love MCC. I've loved every part of being a part of it, but I do feel like we have lots of trails to blaze and lots of obstacles to get over. But I don't have any doubt that with the help of God, we will get there.
I'm Reverend Dr. Robin Gorsline. I am currently a member of Metropolitan Community Church of Washington, D.C., MCC DC, where I'm thrilled to be part of the volunteer staff as the writer, theologian in residence, and a former pastor of MCC Richmond. I'm really glad to have this opportunity to say two things. MCC opened my eyes to the largeness of God in ways that prior churches had not. And so I really treasure MCC for that, but I think we have also not done all we can to help each other as well as the world understand that largeness. So in issues of racism and white privilege, white supremacy, we need to be far more active. We need to be outspoken. We need to be talking with each other. And speaking as a white person or a person of European descent, I know I have to help other people of European descent unlearn some of the things that we have been taught. And the second piece of that for me is that I think we also have a mission around sexuality as a denomination. We became a denomination formed by Troy because of the exclusion of LGBT folks, or in those days, lesbian and gay folks. But it's a lot more than that. And the church as a whole still doesn't talk about sex. And we don't either in MCC. So we need to talk about both those very difficult personal, but also social problems, and help us to change and become the church of the largeness, the bigness, the glory and the joy and the love of God. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Roland Smith, and I am a member of the Metropolitan Community Church in Detroit, Michigan, where the Reverend Roland Stringfellow is my pastor. I am the lead deacon there, and I think places like the PAD Conference and MCC are necessary and needed because people need to feel included and that they are inclusive, that we are an inclusive body of people, believers, and that we don't exclude anyone, but we have many differences, but we only come together, and when we come together, we serve as one entity, and we can bring all that great diversity and all those great, beautiful differences together, which makes us beautiful people, all in one, serving one God. So I like to see MCC and Pat just move forward with the ultimate in inclusion and diversity.
I am Reverend Wanda Floyd and serving currently as a transitional pastor at MCC Charlotte, North Carolina, USA. As a person of African descent in MCC, I feel that I have found my home. Here I can be all of who God created me to be, as far as authentic and truthful, and live my life as God intended, as a woman, child of God who happens to be lesbian and chose to be clergy. My hope for the future of MCC, especially in connection to people of African descent, is that we will have more people of African descent and of color come into the denomination, as well as begin to have more representation in leadership. And as we continue to grow, I believe that is a dream and a hope that indeed can happen if we pray and if we work and be intentional about making sure that people understand how you become a leader in this denomination, and make sure they understand what they need to do for that in order for us to have a more diverse future in metropolitan community churches. Thank you.